Good morning, friends and fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the Morning Market Prep video for August 8th, 2024. Well, doggone it, yesterday, as I suggested, we needed to be watching pretty darn closely for that potential of resistance above. I didn't realize that it was going to turn into such a reversal on the day, just that I was suggesting caution as we approach some of those resistance areas. Obviously, yesterday, pretty rough day, and unfortunately, it's starting with a little bit of roughness this morning as well. So let's take a look at what happened overnight. Well, first off, Asian markets were mostly lower overnight, but rather modestly slow. So the Nikkei was down 0.74%, Australia down 0.23%, and South Korea down 0.45%. But then we had a bit of a reversal out of Shanghai and ended up finishing up by 7 cents, recovering some of those losses, and Hong Kong finishing up 0.08% or $13.97. So tried to reverse there a little bit in a couple of markets. If we take a look at European markets this morning, they are bearish across the board. DAX being down more than 0.5%, FTSE down almost 1%, and CAC down approaching 1% as well. So struggling in there. Momentum seems to be a major problem as we continue to have all of these uncertainties in the market. When we look at U.S. futures this morning, we do have NASDAQ futures trying to make something happen here. The pre-market, at least at the moment, they are just basically flat. S&P futures are slightly lower by 0.12%, and Dow futures being down at the moment 0.28% as earnings begin to roll in. So if we take a look at oil this morning, we saw oil yesterday had a nice little rally back, but now we've got oil moving just a little bit lower. These are oil producers, as you can see here, and they're struggling with a lower high here in the market. Oil coming in right now just down just ticked down 7 cents to 75.16, and Brent is down 19 cents at 78.14. Perhaps we could get a little bit of stability in there. And then after a nice move yesterday, bouncing up here in natural gas, we've got just a little tiny pullback here this morning, looking at the moment at about a penny and a half. Trying to pull back. If we take a look at cryptos here this morning, cryptos trying to rebound from another rough day yesterday. Right now, Bitcoin is showing up 2,511 points per coin, and we're green across the board, trying to reverse yesterday's down selling in the market. Gold happens to be up nicely this morning as well. If we take a look at GLD, getting a nice little pop here in gold. At this very moment, up $13.70 an ounce in gold futures. Silver also taking a little bit of a bounce in here. If we take a look at copper, it's a little bit higher, but boy, when we look at stocks like FCX, SCCO, copper still struggling an awful lot here in the market. Platinum and palladium are a little bit lower here this morning. When we take a look at bonds this morning, bonds are pulling back. They have been on a run to the upside the last couple of days, and we are seeing them pull back just slightly here this morning. The 2-year bonds at 3.95%, the 10 years at 3.92%, and those 30-year bonds at 4.23%. So just a little pullback from yesterday's move. We had a bond auction yesterday that didn't go well, and that raised some concerns out there in the market. So keep a close eye on those today. If we take a look at TLT. TLT has been running in a very volatile situation here in that shooting up and now pulling back pretty sharply. Keep an eye on those bonds as we continue to see that currency really fluctuating here in price. US dollar really bouncing around here quite a bit. So be very, very careful. We're running into some resistance here in that chart. So what does all that mean for today? Well, how about we settle in? Let's buckle up. Let's get ready for the Thursday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. Let's take a look at these charts and see if we can gain a little bit of information about how we might want to approach the market for today. Looking at these charts, remember we want to shake off that bias and try to look at things the way they are, not the way we want them to be. And if we take a look here in the diamonds, you can see we have not only broken this upside trend, but we broke this little trend here in the chart once again, failing yesterday pretty substantially, ending up leaving behind a bearish engulfing candle as the computers caught up yesterday. And as you can see, we have a little bit of bearishness this morning. So if that continues, if those bears can continue to push, the first test is going to be down here to see if we break this low. If we were to break this low here today, that would probably raise some considerable concern in the market. Now, if we were to fall through there, next level is going to be maybe down here in this area of the chart, and beyond that, we're really moving into some very bearish territory here in the market if we were to continue that selling to the downside. And certainly we know we can move some big points here in the market with the volatility that we've seen. So we need to be prepared for just about anything. Now, if we take a look at a potential of an upside move, if we can grab onto some support in here and those bulls can find inspiration, well, I'm going to suggest right up in here could be an interesting test. You can see we've got pretty good price resistance in here, and then of course that trend that we need to break back above. Breaking through there, then I'm going to suggest we might come back up and retest the highs here in the chart of yesterday. Now, keeping in mind, we're talking about some big point swings here to make that happen. So watch carefully. Beyond that point, we're looking to break a fairly significant level of price resistance and pushing back up in the chart. Now, if we take a look at our moving averages, where we failed yesterday was not a good situation, technically failing the 50-day moving average. I do kind of suspect that making that failure, that we could pretty easily see that move coming on down here to test the 200-day in the diamonds. I would guess the 200-day is going to be starting to pull pretty hard. But we've got so many earnings, it's possible that those earnings could change things here today. Just watch that closely. If we take a look at our SPY, SPY also bearish engulfing candle. If the bears were to continue to find inspiration here today, then I would suggest a push on down here, perhaps to test that recent low in the chart. Now beyond that, it gets pretty brutal here in the chart. You can see there's a little gap underneath there that we might fall into and test, and then of course moving on down progressively through these levels until maybe we're looking at an extremely bearish chart in the market. Now, if those bulls can find inspiration and we can bounce, and you can see we're trying to catch this little tiny bounce here in the pre-market, then I'm going to look for a level up right in here. See if we can push up into that area, that resistance area in the chart. Pushing beyond that point, I'm going to look at this area up here. But we want to be paying close attention to whatever happens. Watch for those whipsaws. We're seeing these big point reversals intraday. We continue to get these disappointing or uncertain things. And we've got a jobless number coming in here this morning, so probably creating a little bit of uncertainty going into the open. Watch those areas of the chart if we push back up, and then keeping in mind that we're still well below our 50-day moving average, and our short-term averages are starting to cross down through there, giving us a pretty heavy area of price resistance above. And we do want to remember that that 200-day could start pulling pretty heavily on the chart, particularly if we get anything else in bad data. One thing I will say that gives us some hope of more of a relief is this is a very, very steep decline, and to almost too parabolic to the downside, kind of like how we went to the upside, too parabolic, almost too parabolic to the downside. That would give us some hope of a little bit of relief if we can find some bullish information in the market. I'm going to say pretty much exactly the same thing here on the QQQ. Qs, if those bears can continue to push, then testing down in here, breaking yesterday's low, and I'm pushing on down toward these lows to test Monday's low here in the market. Looks like a possibility that certainly could occur here in the market. Breaking below that, we're going to start looking at these levels down in here. Beyond here, boy, it gets real ugly for us. We could see a lot of pain, a lot of fear coming into the market if we start moving down through there. Let's take a look on the bullish side. If those bulls were to find that inspiration, well, once again, we're going to bracket this back up here, see if we can break that resistance, and then come up into this resistance area of the chart. Breaking up through there, coming up in here to test this downtrend in the chart would be the next level that I would be watching carefully. And we do have to remember short-term moving averages down through that 50-day moving average, and this gives us a little bit of hope down here in already testing or retesting that 200-day moving average. Assuming it can hold, maybe we can start lifting up here once again to test that downtrend. If we take a look at our Russell, IWM also leaving a bearish engulfing candle in here, and that potential that if we were to break on lower, a test of this support down here does seem likely if the bears can continue to push. Beyond that point, we really start to move substantially lower here in the Russell, and that would likely raise some considerable fear in the market. If the bulls can find that inspiration today, then same thing here, push back up and see if we can recover or at least test the resistance of that level in the chart there, and then pushing on up to this very significant level of resistance above in that chart. Once again, on our moving averages, failure of the 50-day moving average is not a good thing, and I would guess that that 200-day moving average could tug on this depending on how these numbers come out for today. Let's take a look at our VIX. Now, our VIX certainly has been a major concern here. We're seeing a lot of fear in the market, making our implied volatility of all of our options go up. Bid-ask spreads are widening, a lot of uncertainty here in the market. And if we were to hold this as a higher low and push on higher, that's going to be some serious bearishness possibly for the market if we start to fall from where we are and hold this area here as a higher low. 27 handles in the VIX on Wednesday. Not a great sign overall for the market. But if those bulls can find inspiration and maybe pull this back, maybe coming down in here to test some of these other areas of support, then we might be able to experience a little bit more of relief to the upside and quell some of those fears. But I think data is going to be one of those things that are going to be really dependent on whether or not we start to see a little bit of relief here in the market. Let's take a look at our T2122. Now T2122, it gives us maybe our best hope that a little more relief could be coming in the market soon, because we're down here close to that bullish reversal zone. Notice that we tried to push up yesterday and completely reversed that with some bad bond auctions, some bad data. Jamie Dimon suggesting still sees recession as a chance here in the market. Having a lot of those uncertainty struggles here with our economy, and if those bears were to find inspiration, you can see we do have downside opportunity, so we'll want to be watching for that potential, particularly if data starts to cause us a problem. And if the bulls can find inspiration today, and there certainly is plenty of earnings that could provide that today, then that push to the upside, we'll be watching that carefully here. We've got plenty of upside opportunity. If we take a look at our T2108, it is difficult when I look at these to make much of a bullish case. As you can see, 33% of the stocks holding above their 40-day moving average. That's a tough bullish case when we've only got that much holding on. But the good news is we've got some support down here, and if we can get that bullish move here in the market, we can relieve some of that pressure back to the upside. Now, it'll be really important if we can get back up through that 50%. But we've got a lot of work to do to make that happen. And our T2107, also pretty tough to make a bullish case here with 47% of the stocks holding above their 200-day, but it may be just enough oversold that help give us that relief back to the upside. We'll start looking here to break some resistance, and then resistance above that as well, and maybe coming back up above that 50% area in T2107. T2101 continued to see that breadth increasing on the sell wave. Those bears continuing to be emboldened to push. So we need to see if those bulls come in. We need to see those bulls show enough enthusiasm to continue to push the breadth higher. If we happen to get that a breadth decline on a bullish wave, that may embolden those bears. So be kind of watchful of that. Let's take a look at our economic calendar here real quickly. Our economic calendar does have a few things that we want to be paying attention to this morning. Where did I put it? There's our economic calendar. So if we take a look right here, we've got jobless claims this morning, and this is going to be really important. Jobless consensus is that we're going to relieve a little bit of that with 240,000 up from the 249 last time. Watch that closely. This could easily create our market sentiment for the day if those jobs hold in there better than expected, or if we get a bigger than expected claims increase. That could also tag on some uncertainty here in the market, and markets just hate uncertainty. We've also got wholesale inventories. Wholesale inventories are expected to decline from a 0.6 to a 0.2. Keep an eye on that. We've got a natural gas report, bond auctions. We've got Barkin speaking here today, and a Fed balance sheet. So still a very light day. And as we move into Friday, boy, it's even lighter. A Baker Hughes rig count. Nobody's going to pretty much care about that. So we will be heavily focused on earnings reports and, of course, geopolitical news. Let's take a look at our earnings calendar here for today. And our earnings calendar is far too big for me to cover this morning. So make sure you click the link just below the title of the video. That'll take you back to the morning blog. Just a couple of things that we can pay attention to. I did see Lilly, Eli Lilly, reporting today, and got a nice pop here this morning on Eli Lilly. Very, very strong move. So keep an eye on that. Looking good there on Eli Lilly. If we take a look at some of the other stocks reporting today, Fold will be reporting. We're going to hear from Datadog here this morning. We're going to hear from HBI, little Haynes brand in there, defensive sector. We've got Penn National on the gaming side of things. We're going to get PZZA reporting here this morning. So quite a few reports. Yeti will be reporting. So a lot of reports here before the bell. And then, of course, after the bell, one of our probably more notables is going to be AKAM. After the bell, we're going to hear from G. We're going to hear from NUS. We've got Pay in there. We're going to hear from SSP. We've got Unity in there. West will be reporting. We're going to hear from Yelp. So keep an eye on some of those reports this afternoon. Let's take a look at a few stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if you could do me this quick favor, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you could please click that bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post a video, and make sure you click that subscribe button. And also, if you find these videos to be useful or helpful, if you could do me that favor, and that would be click that thumbs up button, leave a brief comment. That helps the channel to continue to grow. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate all the kind comments that you guys leave on the videos. You guys are truly awesome. Thank you so much. Means a lot to me. And thank you to everyone who shares these videos, watches, picks them up off of Facebook and Twitter. Thank you so much, everyone. You guys are truly amazing and so kind. I truly appreciate it. It's a pleasure working for everyone that's so kind. Let's take a look at some of these stocks setting up. Remember, everyone, these are not recommendations to buy or sell any security. You need to do your own due diligence. Be very careful in this market, and remember that anything is possible here. Volatility remains quite high, and we could have big moves up, big moves down, and intraday reversals that could take your head right off. So be careful with your trading. Don't assume that anything that I have to say in these stocks means they're going to be bullish or bearish or take off. Follow your rules and your guidelines. Never blindly follow anyone else's trade ideas. Let's take a look at some of these out here. Boy, I got to tell you, some of the defensive sector stocks continue to be very impressive. Altria, I believe, is setting up here. Nice little upside move. It's certainly shown quite a little bit of volatility in here, but I would watch as this tightens up this range in here and look for that next opportunity that might pop through to the upside. I would also keep an eye here on 3M. Big pop on its earnings report, and now it's just kind of resting sideways here in the chart. Now, if we're waiting for the trend out here, it may be out here for a while, a ways before that comes into play. But with some of the strength that we have seen in some of these, I wouldn't be at all surprised if 3M were to find enough energy here before too long to go early in there. So keep an eye on 3M. You might also want to be keeping an eye, I've mentioned TAP several times. TAP started up on its earnings report yesterday, reversing. So this guy, just so volatile in here. I think I'd have to set this on the shelf for a while and wait for this pattern to clean up before I would make any decisions on that. But I can't say the same for Coke. Boy, Coke continuing to look really good. A bullish candle yesterday, of course, the drawdown in the market. Pulled it back as well. But I would keep an eye on this. So if we get some bullish energy in here, I think there's every reason to believe Coke could continue to move on higher. Take a look at CPB. CPB, nice little resting pullback the last few days, might be coming into some price support here in the chart. I would be watching this if it consolidates and rests for that next opportunity in here. I continue to think Hershey is looking pretty darn good, continuing to move up in that upside run. A little volatile here, but that's with the entire market showing lots of volatility. So keep an eye on some of those defensive sector stocks. You might also want to take a look if you have an interest in maybe some shorting. Take a look at JP Morgan yesterday, putting in a lower high here in the chart, and that possibility that we could see a failure here along that 50-day moving average. There are quite a few things in the financial sector. If we look at XLF itself, failing at our 50-day moving average. So watch that closely. If that follows through to the downside, I would not rule out that we would be heading back down toward those 200-day moving averages. Take a look at BAC. Bank of America already made it to the 200-day, and we're seeing some pressure here. Once again, a possible lower high setting up on BAC, so I would watch that for those potential moves to the downside. If we take a look at regional banks also run into some problems yesterday. We popped up and then pulling back, and I think there's a pretty good chance we'll at least test this 50 here in those regional banks, so I would watch that close. Anything beyond there, we might see the 200-day come into play on that chart. So quite a few of those. Also, when we look at some of the big tech giants, let's take a look at Google. Google running into, they tried to pop, pulled it back, bearish engulfing candle at the end of the day. Maybe at the best we could look for is to Google to rest in here or slowly rally back up into that downtrend. But I would be watching carefully here, because if Google fails this big upside support, that could be a major problem here. We look at some of those that have, like AMD losing big support levels in the chart, continuing to show bearishness here in the market. SMCI, oh my goodness. There we go. SMCI, after breaking support, there's very little support right here. We could find a tiny little bit, but if that continues to break through here, big supports down here, we may be down here below 400, trying to find some support in SMCI if we continue to see that selling coming in here into tech. One thing I will also say is we're so oversold here in the short term. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see a little bit of a relief rally, at least back up here into that trend. And then I would look for that next short position if we can finally catch a little bit of relief in the market. Other places, take a look at CVX. CVX, very parabolic move to the downside, coming into some support. If a person wanted to do a little speculating in here, this is a big area of price support. You might look at this as something for a bull put credit spread to see if you can get something underneath here and then have that bounce off of that big area support and rally to the upside. There are a lot of charts out there feeling some significant pain. So please keep that in mind. When we look at URI, United Rentals is sometimes one of those stocks that I look at as just kind of showing me the strength of the overall economy when rentals are being heavily taken. People are remodeling and doing all kinds of things. Well, we're looking pretty ugly here yesterday with that bearish engulfing candle, that possibility that we could move down in here into these lows. And it is giving me a concern over our entire economy. And I can still see the same kind of worry here in Mickey D's, despite the fact that Mickey D's came into this nice bullish move here recently. If this can rest or pull back, we're continuing to see these concerns from these restaurants and companies that are very dependent on that consumer spend running into lots of trouble. But Mickey D's making that break here through the upside. Any rest or pullback in here, I'd be watching for that next opportunity to the upside, but I would not be at all surprised if this runs into some more trouble and finds a failure there as well. So just keep a very close eye on the market. I continue to like most of the stocks that make up the XLP sector. If you take a look at XLP, we've got that LW coming up out of the bottom, but Colgate continues to be really strong. Stocks like Archer Daniels trying to find some bottoming pattern in here, but still quite ugly. You can't say that about Kellanova. Kellanova really strong, holding up very strong. I like KHC an awful lot. This resting pullback coming into support and trend could set up the next opportunity to the upside. Schmuckers, also another one of those defensive sector stocks that continuing to show that bullishness in that upside trend. So there's quite a few stocks for you to look at and consider. Just remember, market could do anything today, back and forth. I would look for whipsaws and kind of plan on them with the uncertainty that we see here overall in the market. So with that, everyone, I want to wish you all the best. Thanks so much for being here today. Apologize, this video is going to be just a tiny bit later than normal, but I'll get it out there. Y'all take care, be safe. See you right back here bright and early Friday morning.